Well, I put a couple of loads of crushed rock on this driveway last spring, packed it in, and then I was pretty careful with it. The main reason that stuff goes is from plowing snow in the wintertime. Well, I was pretty careful on it not to gouge into it. The real problem comes when the ground gets froze up and you got to try to break the ice loose and then scrape it with this blade. I got through most of the winter without a whole lot of snow and was pretty careful and didn't get very much of the rock pushed down here. But unfortunately, when we left to go to Florida in February, it got quite a bit more snow, and my son's not quite as good at that as I am. But anyway, between plowing snow and the torrential rains that we've had, a lot of my rock has wound up either across the highway or down here in the ditch. The frost is all gone out of the ground, all the snow is all gone, but the driveway's still a little bit soft, so I'd ordered a load of rock to be brought in and dumped on here. I wanted to do that while the ground is soft so it gets packed down in and merged in with the underlying driveway real well. Reed Brothers just delivered a 10-yard load of rock. It's the same company that stored the man lift at over the winter and the ones that delivered it here. And they're the ones I got rock from last year. Anyway, they just come and dumped a load, and I was just getting ready to start spreading it out. So I've got the Bobcat here to use to spread it with, and I thought I had it pretty well set up to do. I went and got the blade put on it, and I aired up the tire and I put some fuel in it, but the wire for the solenoid that switches between the tilt and the angle on the blade is broken, so I've got to fix that before I do anything. And then I had a hydraulic lock in the hoses on the blade that I had to fix first. So now we'll get over and start working on getting that wiring fixed up. So this is a pretty heavy duty blade, a real dozer blade, and not just a lightweight snowplow blade. It's got a cutting edge on the bottom of it, and like I said, it's really heavy. Made by a company called Grouser. I think they're out of South Dakota or North Dakota. And it's set up with 2 hydraulic cylinders. This one will change the tilt back and forth so one edge can cut deeper than the other edge, or it can compensate for the tilt on the ground. And then the other cylinder is down underneath here, and it adjusts the blade back and forth so this edge here can come farther forward so material can spill out this side, or it'll go the other way so material can spill out the other way. Problem is that it was a generic setup for almost all skid steers, but this is a Bobcat, and Bobcat has a proprietary wiring harness on it. So you got to get it set up with the Bobcat stuff to work on a Bobcat. So basically you have to buy Bobcat stuff. So this is the wiring connector for the Bobcat. It runs through a computer, and who knows what all it works. You can get a conversion box for this, though. You can convert this over to a standard, so the Bobcat wiring harness will work with standard stuff, but it cost about $1,000 for that. And what I wound up doing was just running a wire from the battery and up one of the control sticks there, the joysticks, and then I put a momentary switch on there, like a horn switch. You can just press it and it activates the switch, and you release it and it deactivates it. And then a wire run out here to hook onto, and I just used a standard 4-pin connector like you use for a trailer, like a boat trailer or something, and then hooked in a wiring harness here with the same thing. Well, this thing takes a beating and gets broke up. You can see one of the wires is broke off of that now. This is the type of end that had on it, and this plugs in right in here, and then it had a receptacle to plug into a standard outlet on most machines, but of course it wouldn't fit the Bobcat. So I found a place down when we were on our vacation in Florida, a swap meet, that had these connectors on there, and it has a bulkhead connector like this, and it's kind of weatherproof so it can plug in here and not get full of water and stuff. So I'm going to fix this up and wire this up so that I can use that. So that's what I got to do before I can start spreading gravel. Alright, I got the end spliced onto that piece where it goes down into the dozer blade itself. Then I covered the splices up with each individually up with heat shrink tubing and sealed them up, and then I put heat shrink tubing over the whole thing. And this is real heavy duty heat shrink tubing. It's got adhesive in it so it seals up, so it's right there around the plug itself. It should take the strain off of the plug, and then it goes back here quite a ways onto the existing cable, so it should take most of the strain off of that. And that's plenty long enough now to reach up in there. So now what I've got to do is take and trim this piece back, splice this in, and then I have to make some kind of a mount for that. Like that maybe. I could take this one off, because I'll probably never use it. But when I sell the machine, so whoever buys it might want to use it. We'll see. But anyway, I've got to take it off right now and make some kind of an attachment for this so that this mount can mount on there, so that this can mount on there. Well, I think I got this figured out. We'll see. Oh, this is the plate that wiring harness, the cannon plug or the plug for the Bobcat was mounted onto. And I went and found a piece of aluminum here that was just a little bit narrower than that, but I went ahead and laid that out. Now this one has a key, a flat spot on it, so it's keyed. Things keyed in there, but I don't have the ability to do that, so I just cut a hole out that size. We'll see if it fits. And then here's the mount for the new wiring harness. Well, I think that looks pretty good. Plugs in. Well, as the saying goes, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So let's put all my tools away and stuff here, and we'll start it up and give it a try and see how it works. But there's an electrically operated valve there in the blade itself that switches the hydraulic output from one cylinder to the other. Oh, because this thing sits outside in the weather all the time in the rain and it's wet, that thing doesn't always work. It gets stiff. You know, even when the electric's hooked up properly, sometimes that doesn't work. So we'll see what happens there. We'll give it a try. Works like a champ, so I guess now I got to go to work. Well, that looks better now than it did. It took a lot more than I thought it would. That thing doesn't push near as good with just the wheels on it as a track machine does. I could have put the tracks on it and it'd been easier. That dozer blade is really heavy, so it bounces up and down on those rubber tires. It's hard to smooth things out. And the guy dumped a whole bunch of the rock way down below what we needed it, so I had to get all that pushed up here too. But anyway, that looks a lot better. I used the bucket on there to finish up to smooth it out, because like I said, that works a lot better for smoothing than the blade does, because the blade just bounces up and down on the tires and stuff and digs in too much. But she's all smoothed out now, looks pretty good, and we'll get it packed in. And I wanted to do that while the ground was still fairly soft, so it gets packed in real good. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, so it should pack it in pretty good, I guess. Anyway, that's done.